Happy Tuesday night to you, folks. Or is it Monday? Happy Monday night to you, folks. Man, oh man, how can you tell it's summertime? The days, they're blending into one another. I suppose that's a good thing. Welcome to Got Your Back, live stream edition. Jason Strudwick and Zuby are standing. Going to break down Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight. Florida having a tough time getting any traction against the Vegas Golden Knights. Also going to have a discussion about Jack Campbell. Expectations for next year. What are you fans expecting from the $5 million netminder next year? We'll get into that. So we are live streaming tonight. Feel free to send us your questions on the stream. We got Zuby monitoring things in the background, and we'll get to some of those. Got Your Back brought to you by our good friends over at Mr. Dirk, our title sponsor, just off White Avenue and 102nd Street. Amazing. Fantastic selection of suits. Can sharpen up your look around the office. They do such a good job. If you're clueless, don't know what goes with what, well, Sterling, Dan, they can help you out with that. If you know what you're doing, well, they can hang with you there too, and you'll come up with some great combinations. It's a great shop. Lots of great casual wear as well. Proud to have Mr. Dirk as our title sponsor as we say good evening to the gentlemen. Zuby and Kelowna with a questionable hat shirt color combination, and Struddy. How was the round today, my man?
I was going to say straight from the golf course, yeah.
Straight from the golf course.
Yeah, a little golf. We try to play with the kids at night, right? That's what we do. We out there evenings and bang around a little bit. So watch the game quick a little bit before that. It was pretty good. Pretty good little evening.
Now, do you generally try, while speaking of Chris and his somewhat dicey shirt hat combination, right, just in terms of matching?
Yeah, no, agreed. I didn't think about it until I looked at it just now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the orange, what is that, Argyle on top, or the red Argyle and the orange fruits?
Those are the red black checks. And I have to shout out, this is the Woodyard in Yellowknife when I went and visited there. And that's apparently Yellowknife's only brewery. And the food there was amazing. I had a beef brisket donair, and it was one of the best things I've eaten in as long as I can remember. Shout out to the Woodyard.
Great. He's just giving out free sponsorships to Yellowknife on our podcast here, Struds. I don't know.
I've been there as well. I too want to say it was a great place to eat.
Really?
There actually, yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't get a hat though. I must not have been their thousandth customer of the week.
Struds, are you a coordinated golfer? When you put your outfits together, because I notice your hat is very nicely matching your shirt. Are you a guy that puts together the outfits, or do you just throw together some golf clothes, and if it matches, it matches?
Lucky. Just pure luck. I don't care. I always wear a visor. I wear a collared shirt and shorts. They're maybe a little bit too tight. So I don't care what it looks like. My wife gives it to me. She's like, "Did you even look in the mirror?" I'm like, "I don't care. I'm out there. I meet the criteria of golf gear, and I'm hitting. And that's it."
Zuby, you're I mean, the kids are way too young for golf for you, aren't they? Like that. I can't imagine it has any presence in your life.
It doesn't, but I bought a putting like a putting green thing, just like the office putter.
Keep the putting skills sharp for the next 12 years.
Yeah, and so they'll be dialed in as long as it's dead straight 8 feet with a slight uphill at the end. These kids are going to hit every one of them. But so they've shown interest in that. So that's about it. But dude, I have a set of clubs that I bought two seasons ago. I've been to the range one time.
Man, with new clubs and everything.
And I love the clubs. I'm excited. I just have not made the time.
Any talent coming up in the family, Struds? Like, how are the kids?
Yeah.
Does everybody play?
Yeah, we all do. Everyone does. Yeah,
that's
so
amazing.
It's incredible.
Golf together. That's great.
Yeah, you know what? Last year was tough. My kids were 9 and 2 11-year-olds. And my wife, she's not very good either, but we battled through it last year, and now this year the fruits of that labor is coming on.
Buddy,
like we played, they can hit it, and it's fun.
You'll do that forever with your kids. It's such a great family thing to do.
It is fun.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. Yeah. Good on you, Zuby. We'll check in with you next. Keep an eye on the streams. Excuse me. Keep an eye on the streams. Let us know if people want to chime in, because we will take your questions. We're going to discuss Jack Campbell and expectations for him this season. So we'll take your thoughts on that. If you're watching the Stanley Cup Final, we'll talk about what we saw in game number 2. But for now, let's get to our breakdown. Goodness. And that's brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. They supply some of the nicest maintenance-free fencing and decking out there. If you've always had that wood fence in your backyard and it's getting a little sketchy and you know it's time for a change, give some thought to going with vinyl products from DLR Decking and Fencing. Once it goes in, it stays beautiful. No painting, no sanding, no staining. It's fantastic stuff. I've got it in my backyard. Absolutely love it. They got locations in Calgary and Edmonton. That's DLR Vinyl Products. So, Struds, we'll get to the Stanley Cup Final in our next segment, but it is an Oiler podcast. So let's talk about the Edmonton Oilers. And as I was watching tonight's Stanley Cup Final game, I was thinking, you know, you need fantastic goaltending. You really do if you want to win a Stanley Cup. I mean, you need reliable, well above average goaltending to push through the way that these teams have pushed through. And both of them at times have gotten that. And I guess the question that I have for you is, if the Oilers were to be in a Stanley Cup Final next season, which goalie is starting for them? Is there any question? Can Jack Campbell get into that conversation?
Oh, man.
Hey, like,
a lot of water's got to go under the bridge before I can really make that determination. But I think this year it would have been pretty clear.
Yeah.
You know, you're right. As you sit and watch, you know, the last, for sure, third round, and then this round for 2 games so far, you know, just that extra save. And it's not you know, there has been amazing save. You think of the Aiden Hill save on Cousins game 1, but just that extra save that just kind of raises the energy in the bench. Like, okay, we got away with one there, right? Let's see if we can go do something here with it. And you know, Aiden Hill, I think he's obviously playing well. I think the team in front of him is playing well, but he looks huge. He looks absolutely humongous in the net. You know, I think Bobrovsky looks big too. Now, you know, he was pulled today, but I don't think I'll put this on his shoulders. But you know, I hope that as you head into it next year, let's say the Oilers make the third round next year, what I would like there to be a pretty clear choice in which guy you're starting. You know, I think that that's important. I think that you need to have one guy going. You know, I said all this summer or all year we're going to need Jack Campbell. I didn't think we need, you know, you wouldn't probably Jack Campbell would be the guy that have to come in and save you. Yeah. But you want it to be clear at this point who your starting goalie is. I think for both these teams in the final, it is.
I think it was tough, right? Jack Campbell, first year in a new city, new team, the weight of a big contract and the expectation that comes with that, where there's always a lot of focus on those things in this market. I guess my question for you is, you know, do you think that it can be a one-year thing where that piled up on him and it got the better of him and it got the better of him for a good chunk of the season, but he came back around in the playoffs and was pretty good? Do you think it can be sort of a one-year bump for Jack Campbell and then he can get back to some of the goaltending that we've seen from him in the past? And I want to be clear, Struds, like, I was looking at his stats today. He's only played more than 30 games 3 times in his career. Mm-hmm. I mean, this guy's got 175 games under his belt. Mm-hmm. Like, that is not a ton for a guy that's his age. 3 seasons where he's had 30 plus starts, and, you know, his numbers have varied: 928 in LA, 914 in Toronto, and 88 in Edmonton, right? So it's not like he's done this a ton in his career, but he has shown that he's capable of it. So is it a bounce back season for Jack Campbell? That's the $5 million question in net.
Well, I think the $6 million question is, how do you make it a bounce back season, right? I think the Oilers this contract's not going anywhere, right? It's not, you're not going to, people say, oh, you trade Campbell and Yamamoto for Carlson. Like, it's not happening. This isn't Christmas. They're not handing out gifts.
Yeah.
So, you know, right. Can it be, I think more importantly is, how do you make that happen? I do think that the contract weighed on him. I think that idea of, you know, having that much money assigned to your name, great thing. And, you know, you're thrilled. He's earned it. But now you got to live up to those expectations. And I think that he is a guy who internalizes so much that I beat him up and it tore him apart. So he's been through it. You know, can it really go worse next year? You know, can you know, if he sits down and talks to someone, whether it's the goalie coach dad or uncle or whatever, brother. I don't know if he has a brother, a friend. My thing would be, could it go worse?
Yeah.
Can't things go more sideways for you than they did this year?
Well,
And
but it can.
I
Like,
don't
it
know how.
can.
As a first year, do you think it'd go worse? Like, how could it go worse? He lost the starting job to a rookie player, got his game back, lost it again, got in the playoffs, played well for one game, and then really didn't, like, there was no faith in him. Like, I don't know
Mhm.
how it can go worse. Like,
Mhm.
what could be worse? He was the backup goalie to a $750,000 starter. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
If it happens again, now it's not just a first year thing. Now it's not
Okay,
just
I
I
understand.
guess what I'm saying is maybe the sum total of it,
Yeah.
wouldn't be as bad. But if it's another year that isn't
Mhm.
going well, I mean, there was lots of pressure on him in year 1 to try and deliver, but if in year 2 he's struggling to deliver as well, now, now it all compounds a little bit. But
But I think
um
he's been through it now. He's been through it.
yeah,
He's been through that first year as an owner. He's been through that first year as a bigger money goalie,
yeah,
right? And yet he didn't meet the expectations he probably set for himself, right? So I really think there's an opportunity here for him to reset in a lot of different ways. I think talking to someone, I don't know if he had a sports psych guy. I have no idea, but I think that that'd probably be valuable for him. I think taking a look at everything in his game with Shorts, the goalie coach, or whichever guy he uses in the offseason.
yeah.
I think going through his equipment, getting that straightened out. How do I look bigger? Just look at him compared to
Mhm.
Aiden Hill. Like, Aiden Hill today looks like he's swallowing the net.
Yeah.
I don't. Jack Campbell, the shoulders are very narrow. Again, I don't feel like I'm piling on here. These are just as things
We
that
were
I
talking
see.
about it all year.
Yeah, you just see it. So,
Yeah.
but you get the sense from Jack, and you're down in that room. Every opportunity there is, he seems like a guy who's very, pretty open, and seems like he's open to improvement of himself. So I'm bullish on an improvement on Jack Campbell. Now, how much improvement are we talking about? I don't know. The other part is, you know, which of the two goalies has a chance of improving more after this first year as an Oiler, full-time
Yeah.
Oiler? Is it Campbell or Skinner? I think I'd probably say Skinner.
Yeah, I mean, Skinner had a really good year and was an all-star,
Right.
but he's still right in this prime development phase of his
For
career,
sure.
right? He was doing a
Yep.
lot of this for the first time. And now he knows what to expect. He knows how to prepare. He's got a year of NHL, success under his belt,
Yep.
and he's going to have a really, uh, motivated frame of mind given the way it went in the postseason for him. So I agree with you. I think there's great room for improvement from Skinner. I think the Oilers would just be absolutely thrilled if Jack Campbell could make it a competition.
Oh,
Make
yeah.
it a competition, right? Where
Yep.
Skinner needs to stay sharp. And when his game isn't quite there and you've given him the respect of being the starter, hey, time to go to another guy. You've got another guy that can keep him feeling like, hey, nothing is guaranteed here. Not that Skinner's a player that's going to take a lot for granted. I want to talk. You brought up the money aspect, and I wanted to ask you about this, Struds. Did you have experience through your career watching players who sign that first really big deal of their career or come in with expectations based on a new contract or the weight of a contract, and there's the space they take and the different ways that can affect different personalities? What was your experience with watching guys up close go through that?
The current general manager of the New York Rangers, Chris Drury. I played there for a year, then I went away, and then one day they signed Drury, Scott Gomez, and Jason Strudwick. Like, talk about a hat trick of wins. And I remember Drew that year just beating himself up and being so hard on himself for the way he felt he was or wasn't playing. And
So was
no,
he naturally that kind of guy, Struds? Was he sort of wired that way to be
I,
hard on himself? Because
I
we know
do.
that about Campbell a little bit, right?
Yeah, I do think so. I do think so. But you have a vision, you play against him. And I hated playing against Chris Drury. He would never stop trying. Never, like, he was
Yeah.
always just grinding. And then he'd get in there, you're like, buddy, like, you're an amazing player. We don't need you to score 50 goals, right? We need you to be Chris Drury, just doing everything right all the time. And I know I talked to him a little bit. Like, I'm not going to say I was like his sports psych, but I talked to him a little bit. And just to try to loosen him up. And I it did. He obviously found his groove, and now he's a GM of the team, so it wasn't a disaster. But I've seen it before, even as a smaller example. When I was given assistant captain in Vancouver, at a pretty young age, and I
How old
wasn't
were you?
really. I would have been like 24 or 25.
Wow. Now, you wore an A in Kamloops, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I
didn't you?
did.
Yeah.
But with Vancouver, it wasn't like I was, I wasn't a first rounder. I wasn't like a big signing, and probably at the time one of the lowest paid players, right?
And that was Crawford that gave that to you?
Yeah, and I was like trying to do so much every game, and I remember Donald Brashear, who was mad he didn't get it. He comes over, he's like, "What the hell are you doing? Don't try to be someone you're not. Just be you. That's why you have that A." And he's almost yelling at me, and it was like, mid game, and I'm like, "Oh my God, you're right." And he kind of just snapped back. You're like, "Okay, this is who I am." So I think for Campbell, so after that conversation with Brashear, it calmed me down, and I kind of got back in my groove.
That's
For him being Campbell, I just think after you've gone through it, it's like it's okay. I've been through it once. I know I've got a better version of myself, and then you start building yourself up. Like, let's be honest, it's not like I don't think he had a lot of injuries or any injuries. I might be wrong, and so he can rest a little bit. And now they've been out. How long has it been now? A month? Has it been a month? They've been out.
Yeah, I think so.
No,
Close to
not
that.
quite. Yeah, close. So 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
He should be back in there, trying to just build it up from scratch, like start up again. And that gives you confidence. Like preparation gives you confidence. So you feel like you've taken a look at every single thing you can do. And I think there's an opportunity for him to have like I said, I'm bullish on a bounce back here for Campbell.
How critical was that playoff performance from him? Just in terms of him being able to hit the summer with a certain frame of mind and a certain level of confidence and just something to have built off of. Because had that not happened, I mean, he finished the regular season not bad, but against weaker competition. But had that not happened, probably such a different mindset over the summer. But he really played his best hockey of the season in the playoffs, 961 in the 4 appearances that he had. 1.01 goals against average. We know it's situational and there's score effects and all those things. But bottom line, Struds, at the toughest time of year, he played his best hockey of the year. And that has to help a guy who had the roller coaster of a season that he had.
Well, I remember saying just before Christmas that there was a couple of games where I'm like, I think he's getting a toehold. He's getting a toehold. Like there's something you can build off of, and you need that. People talk about confidence, and confidence, it doesn't just turn on and off like a light in your bedroom, right? It's like all of a sudden it's not there anymore. You're like, what's going on? Like this, I was making this play, whatever it was, 2 weeks ago, and it's fine. And now it's gone. And then slowly your confidence comes back, and you can't put your finger on this was the play, but it just kind of comes back slowly. So for him, I think he can walk out with his head held high about how he played in the playoffs. And, he's like, okay, I've kind of got something here to build off of. That's who Jack Campbell is, or that's who I am, right? And I can build off that. What went right? What was my mindset? What was my preparation looking like? So I think it was huge, to answer your question. Huge for him.
I wonder too with goaltenders if it's maybe a little bit more isolating or if the pressure is different, because I mean, there are a few positions where if you're bad, I mean, you could really get the feeling like you let the team down, right? A bad goaltending performance flat out can cost a team a game, a series, whatever. And that Jack Campbell's a guy that really cares a lot. And, he wants to be pushing it in the right direction and contributing in the right ways. And I just wonder how the weight of that for a personality like his, it probably doesn't serve him very well to care as much as he cares, and probably, just not wanting to feel like you're letting the team down. And for goaltenders, that's got to be lonely at times, man. It's not like a D-man where you just get benched and you're grumpy you didn't play quite as many minutes.
The hard part is not when you're at the rink. It's when you're not at the rink and you're by yourself, right? And that darkness creeps in. And, and I'm not saying this lightly, I dealt with it. You make a bad play and you can't get over it, right? You're just beating the hell out of yourself over that play. The problem is it doesn't just go away. It's not like diarrhea and you get over it in a couple of days. It's in you constantly, right? Like you have a bad sleep, then you go to practice and it carries into that next practice, and then you move on, then you got a game, then the day after that, and it's dragging into that. Like it's just never ending.
Oh, buddy.
And a guy I played with named Ed Jovanovski. He was a very good player. I think he was an all-star a couple times, but really good.
He was a fantastic, big, strong, rangy defenseman. Pretty tough too.
And tough. And I remember I couldn't believe that guy. He would make huge mistakes. Huge. Now, to be fair, he had the puck on his tape a lot. So, and I'm not saying he was a bad player. I'm just saying he would commit a huge mistake. He'd come off, coach might give him a hard time. He'd just go right back out and try the same thing. Like this guy had the memory of like an ant. And I was always so jealous that he could play like that. It would be on me. I'd just be bothered. And now, you have a lot of people talking about different ways, techniques to kind of get rid of that, just to bury it. You see a lot of goalies after a goal or a bad goal, they'll kind of throw. Mike Smith used to throw, I think it was either water up, and then by the time the water hit the ground, he was supposed to let it go. Really? You see different goalies that, or maybe it's behind his neck. Like every goalie has their own way, and players, it's a little different. It's not as easy to see. But a lot of times when goalies will take a drink, that is them. When that water hits them or whatever, it's over. And now I just focus on the next play. And Ed Jovanovski, I swear, if he made a bad play by the time he got to the bench, he wouldn't even remember he did it. He'd be like, what are you talking about? I'm a really good defenseman. And he'd just go back out and do it like it. And all his teammates would talk about it. And it's a compliment. That's a compliment and a skill that I wish I had more. I got it better when I got older, but it's hard because you don't want to let your teammates down, but also you want to keep playing all the time and keep making those plays to prove people you can.
How many games do you think count? I mean, if I were to tell you, Struds, you have to bet your mortgage, pick a number of starts for Jack Campbell next season. And I know it's impossible to get this right, but I'm just curious where your head would go to on what the number would start with.
So assuming health for both guys, I'd probably, if I could pick it, I would like to see him. I would like to see, well, I'll work backwards. I'd like to see Skinner around 50. So that leaves him with 32.
I think that's pretty reasonable.
For freshness, for everyone to be playing. I don't want to see a 60-22 split because I think Skinner's got to kind of work his way into that start, like playing all those games, and he did well last year. But it's a long year, and I think that the Oilers are hoping it's longer than just 2 rounds. So I'll go 50-32, somewhere in there, within plus or minus 5. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're pretty close there. I do think that Skinner's going to hold the starting job for the bulk of the year next year. That's what my gut tells me. And if he's gotten 32 starts, he's pushed it and he's been competitive. And he's given them the chance. I think a lot of it too depends on kind of how the team is doing. If they're firmly, in a rock solid playoff spot, and they can actually, move it around a little bit. I think if they start slow, then you probably got to overplay the guy that's playing well. So depends on results. But I think that 50-32 range is pretty good. It's going to be one of the more interesting storylines heading into next season. And as we watch the Stanley Cup Final, it's very evident you need to have a confident, really good goalie in there. And it can be a major difference maker, as we've seen so far in this series. All right, that was the breakdown brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. Was going to do the Weiss Johnson mentions, but I want to quickly talk about their tournament tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to it. It's the Weiss Johnson Charity Golf Classic set to go tomorrow out at the ranch. It's a great event that Dennis and the crew at Weiss Johnson put on. Benefits the Edmonton Down Syndrome Society, which is just a great cause. So you can check out their website, and you can definitely donate there. Looking really forward to being out at the ranch tomorrow for that tournament. Reminder that Weiss Johnson's got 45 years in the business. So if you need a new furnace, garage heater, air conditioner, hot water tank, or any of those things serviced, Weiss Johnson is the place to go. Zuby, I don't know why we didn't bring the goalie into this conversation a little bit. Why don't you pop yourself up inside the fist there, and I'll get your take. Do you have something you do in your rec league? If a nasty one goes in, is there some sort of routine you have to just shake it loose and let her go, buddy?
Not a
Drink
routine.
A beer?
Not a routine. Yeah. It's that sound resets me. No, not a routine. I always try to go back to basics. I just try to remind myself, stick on the ice, take care of the ice first, and just stop those. and not overplay, be calm and sit back and be economical and just like stop the stuff on the ice, stop what's on the ice and work your way
Sounds
up.
to me
That's
like
kind of
maybe he needs something, Struddy. Sounds to me
Yeah.
like maybe Zuby. I mean, that doesn't sound very technical or very, not a lot of sports psychology going into that.
You're swimming in there. Sounds like you're lost in the net after a goal against.
it's I guess it needs to be it needs to be a little snappier, hey? Than
Yeah, he did.
like
That's
you
a
set
lot.
water up and it's
You're-
gone. Maybe it
like
needs to
you're
be a
just
little snappier.
Standing there wide-eyed, like, oh, watch the stick, watch the ice, watch the top quarters. I'm just back to.
Oh,
You know what that
shit,
sounded
maybe
like?
two
And
more
this
went
means
in that time. Two
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
went in while I was running through it in my mind.
No disrespect intended, Zuby. This
Yeah.
reminds me of guys I play with when they're not playing well golf. They address the ball for no kidding you 20,
Oh,
30
God.
seconds. Because
Throw a
they
few
have
extra
no, they're
waggles
going
in
through the
there.
laundry list. They can't get they gotta like, okay, keep my elbows straight, keep my head down,
Yeah.
okay, move my foot. They're going through the whole laundry list. Where all you gotta do is get up there, like Coach Chippy says, just feel the flow and hit it. Don't just feel the flow.
Oh, that's amazing.
Well, I get now that I think about, if I had a mantra, it was see it and stop. If it was see it and stop it, that's what I would tell myself.
Revolutionary.
You gotta. I like to think throw the water in the air and
Yeah, I
then
like
forget
that.
it by the time the water hits the ice. I think that needs to be your new thing.
I might try that, but I find when things are going poorly, it's a deflection. It's something that you didn't really have that control of, and that's why I would go back to see it and stop it. If I can see it, I should stop it.
See it and stop it.
See it and stop it. That
yeah,
was more of the mantra. I got a little bit more convoluted in my
Is that
dissection
like
of it.
is that
bit.
written on the wall and everyone like taps it on their way out?
It's
Like,
written
is that
on the
like
inside of my mask, and I pull it down to. Oh yeah, right. Okay, put it back,
That's what I'm here to do.
and then I'm good to go.
Oh
Yeah.
boy, I love it. I love it. All right, Zuby, good stuff. Anything on the stream tonight? There were people. I noticed there were a couple weird comments that came in on Twitter. We got some weird stuff in the old Weiss show. What was Tyler in Edmonton
Is
saying?
Skinner? Well, is Campbell a cat guy? I think that's what he's referring to.
Oh, is that what he's saying?
I think there's some
Okay.
discussion that Campbell has cats.
Yeah, that's right. He was talking about that when he was on our podcast with Pierre earlier this year.
So he's
Grizzly
thinking-
Gran also pointing out that Jack played 36 this year. So I'm not sure how we felt about the dispersion of work. I think both guys got a pretty good amount of work, and neither one hit the playoffs overly tired. I don't think, Struds.
And that's key. That's what you want. I think that's you want everyone to be fresh and feel like they're involved. And I think for Jay Woodcroft, this is a bigger discussion for another day, but everyone's got to be going into playoffs feeling like they've been involved in the season, because you're going to need it. Like, look at these Vegas Golden Knights. You have goals from all over that lineup. I don't think Jack Eichel, I don't think he scored in the first two games, right? So Marchessault's scoring every time he touches it, but different guys are scoring. Like Howden had 2 goals tonight. Who had that on their bingo card?
Yeah, no kidding. All right, let's get to takeaways and break
Oh,
down
can
that game
I had
tonight.
there was one Oiler related question on YouTube.
Oh, you got another? Okay, yeah, do it.
That I thought I would throw out. Reaper said, and this is just quoting him. I don't know who he's referring to, but why doesn't anyone think Bjugstad will return? Some are not impressed with him, and the others say we can't afford him because he's going to get paid. Bipolar answers to me, as he put it. But what's your guys' thought? I think as a fan, I'd love to see him back. I know he's obviously due for a raise. And does that just simply put him out of reach, or are there other factors there, or is it still a possibility in your eyes?
Struds?
I like Bjugstad. I would be a little bit worried about the salary if it's very high. Like, whatever high is, so he
Probably starts with close to a 2, if not a 2, right?
Yeah. So, he had an unbelievable year. Unbelievable. Hasn't been that way before. Now, opportunity in Arizona maybe comes here, a team that was in need of his style of player. But I'd be a little bit worried about the number. So, I'm investigating. I'm looking at it, and then he also has to decide too. Does he want to make a little more and go down back to Arizona? Let's say, as an example. I'm not saying that's where, or would he go somewhere else? I don't know. So I would look into it. But I think that Kenny Holland showed you can add that type of player at the trade deadline.
True.
And maybe address something a little bit more significant now.
Maybe throw a couple more years on the table and see if you can buy it down a little bit. Maybe that's one way to do it.
Sure. Fair.
I mean, I think he likes it out here. So, you put a couple years, 2-3 years on the table, maybe you get that down a little bit. The other thing too is, I mean, we've been talking all along about finding a guy that could moonlight in the top 6. That was a 15 goal guy last season that could maybe score a little bit. I don't know if Bukestad could do that on the regular or not. I mean, he got some looks in those positions here late in the year. I don't know if you would rely on him for that or not. I think he's a bottom 6 forward.
Right.
Yet crosses over into that middle of the lineup type money. So that's an interesting one. Okay, Zuby, thanks for that, buddy. And thank you for your comments here on the stream. We're streaming live on Twitter and on YouTube as well. Let's get to game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final tonight in our takeaways segment, brought to you by Sherwood Buick GMC, the big, beautiful dealership just off Baseline Road on the way into Sherwood Park. They've got tons of inventory, whether it's new, whether it's used, whatever you're looking for, trucks, cars, SUVs. Head on down to Sherwood Buick GMC, fill in the gang there, streamline their process. They make buying easy. They make financing easy. It's just a real positive process. I've got the Sierra 1500 Elevation, and I absolutely love it. So check out Sherwood Buick GMC. Struds, through 2 games here. Boy, Florida's having a hard time getting anything positive going. A win 7-2 tonight with an exclamation point by Vegas. What word would you use to describe what we've seen so far?
Domination.
Yeah,
and I say that with respect. You know, I would have loved to at least had a chance to get dominated in the Stanley Cup Final. You know, and I think you're really starting to see it. The way it expressed itself was through all the penalties they took, like just 10-minute misconducts. Like they are off their game big time. And Tkachuk, you know, I think he's got 3 10s in this series like that in 2 games, right? Like it just.
Well, the refs are getting frustrated too, right? They're just chucking them at him now just to get him out of the mix.
But you're not even involved in the game when you're sitting out. And like, yeah, it's true. Like the last one, he just slashed the guy's stick, but they're watching you. And as a player, you have to know they're watching you, right? And I get he's trying to get it going, but you know, get it going by playing, you know, trying to build something for the next game. Like I can't. There's zero momentum for them leaving this game in the third. I don't know how much it transfers from game to game and from game 2 to game 3, but there is nothing you're taking that's saying, okay, well, we got that going in the third period. You didn't do anything. You just got going off the ice early. So they look so off their game and just so undisciplined. Yeah. It really defies logic, actually.
Yeah. And, you know, he's so effective through the playoffs so far because he's been able to walk that line of being that pest, but also coming through in big moments. But Vegas is just swallowing up all of the big moments. Like, I'm thinking about Barkov in this series. He's had some looks, but Vegas is just all over it. They just swallow it up in front of their net. Nothing gets through. They're just not allowing much. And a player as good as Barkov, I mean, there have been very few moments, and that's a good player to be shutting down the way that they are. You talked about the strength of Vegas's defense coming into this series, and I think they've just got their fingerprints all over this thing, the way they've stifled and frustrated. They've got this opponent. Honest, to me, what it looks like a big brother, and I'll use my little brother Rob for an example. Back in the day when little Obby used to get mad and he'd come raging at me and just swinging his fist, and I just have my hand on his head and he's just like swinging his fist and he's not even landing anything, and you're just standing there, the big brother, with your hand on your brother's head. It just seems like that, and I think the Vegas D has a lot to do with that.
Oh, the Vegas D is so big, right? So the shortest guy I think is Martinez at 6'1", and it goes up through 6'2", Theodore, you know, Pietrangelo 6'3", McCabe's probably 6'3", or McNabb, I should say, and then McNabb. Yeah, sorry, and then you go up to 6'5", Haig, and then White Cloud's probably 6'2", 6'3", right? So they're huge, they're long, there's no room to move, but they can make plays still. You know, but then, you know, the contributions through the lineup, you know, I mentioned Brett Hound at 2 goals, right? Like 2 goals tonight. That's huge. They had 2 goals from D-men last game. They have, you know, different guys contributing in different ways. But I love that's the comment that Craig Simpson made during the broadcast. I always he said they're like a machine. And that's something I talk about with young kids. You have to be like a machine. You cannot let whatever's going on around you affect you, because Florida's begging them to get into a street fight with them, and they're just skating away. Like, this has nothing to do with winning. Nothing. it has nothing to do with what we're trying to accomplish, and they're just playing through it and skating through it. William Carrier, you saw towards the end of the game, Stahl kind of hit one of the guys from behind. And he just said, "Nope, we're good. We're okay. Let's just keep playing." And because really, you got two more wins, and you're done. And it's unlikely now that Florida, it's going to have to be a massive undertaking to get this done.
And they'll remind everybody they were down 2-0 to Boston, right? And that's fair. They know what this position feels like. They know the weight of this. It's not a Stanley Cup final, but that was a heck of a good team they came back against already, right? So as far as things feeling daunting, down 2-0 to the juggernaut that Boston will rank right up there. This is a Stanley Cup final, so it will be a little bit different. How stunned were you to see Jack Eichel sitting on the bench to start the third period? Oh, my.
That was a hard hit. Well, the Raku Gudis hit, that was a hard hit too. The Barbashev reverse hit, that was a big hit. Yeah. Like, there's been some big hits in this series. I wouldn't call it a super physical series, but there have been big hits through 2 games.
Barbashev, that was a real swing in the game there, and it kind of encapsulated what's been going on in this series. So in one set of, 10, 15 seconds, you got the Florida penalty, which puts Vegas on the power play that they scored on. And then a few seconds later, so right after the penalty, before the whistle had gone, that's when the reverse hit happens on Gudis, and he's done for the night. So in one swing, Vegas goes to the power play. Florida loses an important emotional player for them. That game swung early on that just set of plays there. The penalty that wasn't great, and then that hit.
But the thing about Gudis too is that he's kind of one of their heavy players.
Yeah.
We saw him hit, I think it was against Toronto. Was it bunting in the corner? Just absolutely rocked him. And he prides himself on being a heavy physical player. And Vegas is managing that. And quite frankly, I think they're carrying that physicality because they look huge. They're very, very big out there right now. So, for Florida, I go back to it. You're going home with your tail between your legs, and somewhere between, the airspace of Vegas and Florida, they got to leave that all behind and figure out who they are and how they get back to it, because it's they're a better team than they've shown. But then maybe Vegas is controlling what they want or doing what they wanted to as well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear the post game. And full disclosure, we are taping this on Monday night right after the game, so we didn't have an opportunity to hear. But Paul Maurice, always good in front of the microphone. I'm sure he'll be doing and saying the right things to try and get his group positioned. Just back to that Eichel hit real quick. His reaction to it was bizarre. Like, clearly he was really hurt, but the way he was skating to the bench, you were like, is that a separated shoulder? What's going on with him? Of course, everybody's concern is about the neck, but a strange reaction from Eichel right down the tunnel. And I was stunned that he played in that game after that.
Yeah. He's having the type of playoff runs that changes and cements his legacy as a player. Like, that's
really well said.
22 points. I think in this, if I think I'm right, or somewhere in there. And he's having an unbelievable run in this playoffs. He's doing everything he can. He's setting players up all over the place. Now, to be fair, it was, a little loose at the end of the game, but he is any doubters in Jack Eichel with that trade, with what happened in Buffalo, the way he asked out, the neck thing, everything, this changes your legacy forever.
I think the other thing that it does, and I think it's just fair to say this, it shows he was right and Buffalo was wrong. Like, it flat out does. It truly does. He had the surgery. It's worked. He's had a great year. He's had a great playoff. They were at a loggerheads because he wanted to handle his injury a certain way. The team wanted to handle it a different way. And they forced his hand. And Jack Eichel was right. Flat out. And he's proved it this year. He's proving it now. They were wrong to do what they did based on all the results that we're seeing right now. Now, I guess maybe part of the equation is their concern about that procedure over time and its ability to hold up over time. But right in the here and now, man, where Jack Eichel will be sitting where he is, doing what he's doing, sticking to his guns, getting things done the way he wanted to get them done. I love the way you put that. It changes a guy's legacy.
Oh, 100%. It just, there's no doubt. he's playing so well. And you hear the comments of his teammates, somehow he's playing defensively away from the puck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't ever remember hearing that about Jack Eichel in Buffalo. To be quite honest, though, I wasn't watching a ton of Buffalo games, but I remember the first time I saw Jack Eichel play in the World Juniors. I think I was in Toronto doing it over Christmas and doing, every game except for Canada, right? They had the big guys on Canada. And the first time I saw him play, I'm like, I love this guy. He's big, he controls the puck, makes plays. And ever since then, I've kind of kept him in my head. I like to see him and the way he's playing. And now I'm quite happy. I'm happy for guys that are able to do this, to change the perception of what people think of them. And you could say the same thing about Jaromir Jagr, right? There was a certain perception about him for a big chunk of his career. Then as he got older, it changed. Now he's one of the more beloved figures of his generation of hockey players.
Legend. Absolute legend.
That's an absolute legend.
There was definitely a weight that followed Eichel in his last few years there in Buffalo. I remember that he'd come through town. You just watch his interviews, interviewed him a few times. And then I sort of juxtaposed that with what we saw this year. And I think I interviewed him a few times during the year and then in the playoffs, and just seemed like the weight of the world had come off of his shoulders, and just he knew he was in a great situation. And I can only imagine how frustrating it was to be patient through an injury that is that worrisome, and then the frustration of the trade and having to the way that all played out. So good on him, man. He's having a heck of a performance. Zuby, you can go ahead and roll the music, buddy. We are going to wrap up here on the stream. Struds, good job, man. When's your next round? You going to get out again in the next couple of days?
Yeah, I got a busy couple of next days, so it might be unlikely. I'm hoping maybe Thursday or Friday if everything goes correct.
I will be at the ranch tomorrow for the Weiss Johnson Charity Tournament, benefiting the Down Syndrome Society. Really looking forward to that. Good stuff tonight, Struds. We'll check in a few days, my man.
Love it. Talk to you guys then.
Yeah, you bet. Zuby, thanks for all your work behind the scenes. Thanks for your contributions here on the live stream. And a big thanks to our sponsors, as always. Our title sponsor, Mr. Dirk. My brothers, Rick and Rob at DLR Vinyl Products, Sherwood Buick GMC, and of course, Weiss Johnson. Enjoy the rest of your night. We'll chat in the next couple of days. Fairways and greens, folks. Cheers.